I'd like to welcome everyone to the October meeting of the Gainesville End of Life Doulas. We have this monthly Zoom every second Wednesday at 3 p.m. for an hour. And this is our October meeting, and we have Jeanne Dickman, and she's my friend and neighbor sitting here with me. And she's going to share her experience with heart failure and a heart transplant. So the title of her talk is A Journey with Two Hearts, A Journey of Two Hearts. My name is Shanti Vani, and I'm a death doula here in Gainesville, Florida. I'm also on the board of the Florida End of Life Doula Alliance, which is a statewide nonprofit organization. We have a doula directory, and you can put it in the chat that you can look at our website at feolda.org, feolda.org. So, Jeanne, welcome. I'm just so glad that you are here with us today, and I'd just like you to introduce yourself and share a few words, and then we're going to watch a short video of Jeanne talking before her transplant.
So, what do I say? I've just recently celebrated my 1-year anniversary post-transplant on September 18th. It's been a really rough year, and it's been a very wonderful year at the same time. I've learned so much about myself. You've heard me say that before. And it's been a tremendous opportunity of growth. I feel like I've been literally touched by divine intervention, and I've learned, and I'm continue to experience just sacred gratefulness. It's really a profound experience.
Yeah. And I've been able to touch base with Jeanne throughout the years before all of this from time to time. And it's been really a joy and an honor and a powerful thing to watch her as she's gone through this journey. So I'm going to do the screen share, and I'm going to pull up the YouTube video. This is Jeanne on March 2nd of 2024.
Each individual's transplant journey can look like. Yeah. So Jeanne Dickman, also go by Jeannie. One parent called me Jeanne, one parent called me Jeannie. So I am a Jeannie. I was born in Jacksonville, Florida, third generation Floridian, although I have lived 30 years outside the country as well. Florida is where I grew up, in and around Alachua County. I'm the middle of 5 children, so I had siblings. Let's see, I'm 63 years old. I was born December 5th, 1960. The opportunity to give back, the opportunity to share insights, to strengthen or inspire, or just in any way another person in similar situations or parallel journey could gain some support or some insights that would be supportive to them. And experiencing that loving kindness really helps you not be emotionally depleted, really helps keep your spiritual vibrations, the energy, just my faith community, neighbors. It is so helpful. It makes it less of a struggle and more that you get in a flow aligned with the process. An important aspect to my personal experience is that one of my older sisters is actually now 8.5 years post heart transplant. I had the gift, this opportunity to be supportive of her since she lives out of town, but the hospital here locally was where her surgery took place and all her lots and lots of follow-up appointments. So I've been supportive of her, and then now the roles are reversed, and she's sharing her insights and how it was for her. And sometimes that's very helpful to me and she's my cheerleader. It's wonderful. And I would urge everyone to put together a cheerleading squad. Well, I found out about 8 years ago that I was in severe heart failure a couple years after returning from 30-year stint in Switzerland. And I just want to state that my sister's reasons for needing a transplant are completely different from mine. Hers was 100% electrical. As for me, when they announced to me that I was in severe heart failure, my arteries are really good. All my other organs are in excellent condition. It's a mystery. We don't know why my heart is so weak. Well, I just realized it's only been since December 11th, my last annual follow-up appointment with my cardiologist, that it was when I had to confess and admit that I was no longer maintaining, that I felt I was sliding downhill from that day, just a matter of months ago, that I knew that transplant was a very strong possibility. That was, and I had so much determination. It's been a lifelong dream since I was early teenager. And it was so difficult. I wasn't even averaging 1 mile per hour. I could barely make it 5 miles a day. I had to do an abundance of stealth camping because I couldn't make it hike in a day's time the distance in between shelters and campsites. It was very, very hard. And then we had the heat wave and all the water sources dried up. And so I had to get off trail. Just a year following having to get off trail, I went back to do a section. And I did. And it was much harder going up the mountains. They were all only about 5,000 feet altitude, but it was up and down, up and down, up and down. It was a section between Hot Springs and Irwin on the North Carolina-Tennessee border.
The Appalachian Trail.
And I was so short of breath, and there's so much pressure in between the heart and lungs, and it was frightening, terrifying. And so since late summer, I realized I was going to have to admit to my cardiologist that I was no longer maintaining. And it was the most dreadful defeat to go in there and no longer be the superstar who, despite having a heart so weak, is maintaining so well. It was really hard to do. I didn't want to admit it. Every time I asked myself, did I want to stop? And I'm like, no, I'm right where I'm supposed to be. I want to be here. I love being here. I'm just doing what I loved and wanted to do.
Tell us.
It's ICD, which stands for Internal Cardiac Device. It's a Boston Scientific. And that was implanted, I believe, March 2015. And it is both defibrillator and pacemaker. And for years, it only worked 1%, and that could have been its own maintenance of sending the transmissions. But this last year and a half, the story is different. It's had to intervene quite a few times. For example, day before yesterday, I felt suddenly very faint, and we call those little events, I think is what the cardiologists refer to them as. And when they interrogated the device, they said that my heart was beating 208 beats per minute. And sometimes I've been told that the upper or lower part, half of the heart will kind of stop, and then another part will just flutter. And it will make you feel very faint. They were quite surprised that I didn't pass out. They kept verifying, was I sure that I hadn't passed out? And I assured them I did not lose consciousness. So it's a very strange feeling. It's like this darkness envelops me, and then it's like I get plugged back in and the light returns. That's what it feels like to me. It's very edgy. messy edge. And I, in that moment, the signals that those sensations I'm feeling on the inside, I think that's a chemical reaction to I'm dying.
Tell us.
I feel it's very important to have goals, to have things to live for. I don't watch TV. I haven't watched TV in 35 years. And I could advise people that the times where I felt so frightened and terrified, when you feel so very tired, it would be so easy to become a couch potato. It would be so easy to just sink into depths of depression. But then things would just snowball. That wouldn't be what's healthy for your body. But this continuous reawakening and rallying and rising to the occasion. Yes, give yourself 0 days. Yes, favor your rest and nutrition. And do special things I call lavish self-care. Go out for, a lemonade or decaf coffee, or these special things where you can people watch and enjoy being out of the house. But please don't become a couch potato. It does not help your cause. So it's always, this relationship with death is always being formed. It's always evolving. When I realized I was getting a heart transplant, it actually gave me a gift, this hidden gift that I realized I was told I was in end stages, and then I would wake up each morning and still do, and I know, I feel, and I acknowledge that today's the best day I'm going to have for the rest of my life. I'm just sliding downhill. So it's a gift where you realize the value and how precious this beautiful day is. Even if it's pouring down rain and stormy, it's still a gift. That I don't look at life the same way, and I don't take it for granted. It just seems more rich and precious to me. It's like you want to squeeze every drop out. You don't want to waste it because you don't know how much you have left. It changes your relationship both with death and with life. I'm not afraid of death. I've had multiple near-death experiences, and it was the most calm, peaceful. There was no fear. It was the easiest thing to just close your eyes and leave this envelope of a body. I'm comfortable with it. I've been there in car accidents, and I nearly bled to death once after the birth of my oldest son. I think being comfortable with death, having your death before you, it is healthy. It's not morbid at all. It's a very healthy thing that helps you keep things in perspective and to really enjoy the most of your living moments every day. That's how it works for me. So we were going to share a special word. It's from the Hawaiian language, and it's kahu, K-A-H-U. It's a really special word because in their language, they don't say that they are their pet's owner, like here in the United States, speaking English in this language, we would say, who is the owner of this dog? Or, is that your cat? Yes, I'm the cat's owner, things like that. But it's quite different in the Hawaiian culture. You are their kahu, which means you are their protector. You are their guardian and steward, and you are the beloved attendant.
Yes.
I like that analogy. Yeah, I'm going to soon be planting a garden, and I'm going to have a different relationship with the garden this year and for the rest of my life, compared to in the past where it's my garden and my strawberries or my radishes. It's going to be different, a different quality, which is a good example how we can come into a different relationship and different qualities, even with the transplant process. There's so much wiggle room.
Oh, I said, what are the chances someone like me living next door to someone like her?
I'm like, I'll be your doula. And really, we just hung out and visited. And then one day we said, oh, I said, how to record you, girl.
And what do I always say? Okay.
Yes, yes, and let's do it. So what a joy. I'm so glad we had that. My only regret is that I didn't realize that I had myself not on mute. And if I'd had myself on mute, we would have had a clear picture and my sort of unappealing photo wouldn't have come popping in all the time. But anyway, it's fine. We're just regular people, not professionals. So, well, I just love I just love you and I love your story and I love hearing from you. What we can do is I see Kathy's here too.
My sister.
She popped in the middle of the video.
Kathy.
Yeah.
So I'm staying on mute because Sonia's with me. There's Sonia. So I'm staying on mute so you all don't get disruption, but I'm listening.
It's fine, and we may ask you to share, or you can jump in whenever you guys feel like it. So anyway, what you can do is feel free to put comments and questions in the chat, or you can save them until she tells her story some more, whatever people want to do. But I just want to let Jeanne go ahead and tell us some about what it's been like. Because that video was March of 24 and your transplant was September 18th of 24. So, little did we know that the heart would come along. And I know it was always this feeling of like, you tell us what it is anticipating out of life.
That video was just days before they put in the super PICC line. And then I was on the continuous IV of the milrinone to keep my heart going. And I remember when they called me to do that surgery and said, Tommy called and said, we want you to come to the hospital. And I'm like, okay, when? He's like, now? I'm like, no.
That's your nurse, right?
Yeah. First time I said, no. I said, I'm going to the beach tomorrow. And he goes, no, Miss Dickman. And then this idea just came to me. I'm like, my birth heart needs to walk on the beach with me one more time before we say goodbye. And he's like, okay, we'll see you tomorrow evening. There's nothing he can say to that.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, I think the part that was cut out of the video, and I sort of interjected it, I don't know if you heard, but the trail experience she was talking about was the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah.
I was so amazed because with my good heart, I don't even want to try to go walk the Appalachian Trail. And so can you tell us a little bit of what that means to you,
Right.
To walk the trail and how that was for you?
Right. It's very meaningful. In fact, just 2 days ago, I read this brand new map of the Appalachian Trail. It's 10 feet long. It's up on the wall where I'm living. I'm going to finish my hike that I began. I made it 14% of the way. And that trail played a very important part in getting me approved for surgery. I'll share this story with you. The day that my medical review board met, the heart surgeon that Shan's proposed this surgery to was unable to attend that meeting. He probably had an emergency transplant to do. And so when I was in the hospital, I've been twice hospitalized where they expected me to stay there for a year or two. 2 to 2.5 years is the average wait for my blood type. So I was hospitalized and the surgeon came to see me to interview me. And it just went so wonderfully. He said, "What's that thing?" Pointing to my map of the Appalachian Trail that was on the wall of my room. Since I was going to be there for at least a year, I kind of moved in. And I said, "Oh, that's the Appalachian Trail." He goes, "You hiking that thing?" I said, "Yes, sir. I've made it 14% of the way," and pointed to where I had made it. And he's like, "Wait a minute." And he said to his assistant, "We've never had a patient like this before." And it just really started the most beautiful conversation. And midway through, he said, "Stop. I want to remember this moment for the rest of my life." Turned to his assistant and he said, no one else. I'm doing this surgery." And then he looked at me and he said, "I would fly back for you." And I didn't know what that meant. But actually, the day that I got the call, I was told that if that call, it was like 6 something in the morning. I was told if that call had come even 1 hour later, he had a cutoff time for that day. When he did my surgery, his bags were already packed. He left at 5 a.m. the following morning for Austria, for a family wedding or something. It was just the timing. And I just feel like it was just divine intervention that Dr. Bleiweiss was able to do the surgery. And he does 100% of all the pediatric surgeries at Shands. He is excellent. And I'm so fortunate that he wanted and performed my surgery.
Well, and I remember you were hospitalized at some point there before the surgery, and you were walking the halls a couple of miles a day, and all the other people were being couch potatoes watching TV and tethered to their beds, but you were up and out in the halls.
Right. One morning, this 5 people came in. They were the special PT, and they said to me, I had just climbed back in bed and was catching my breath, and they said, "Today's goal is to get you into the chair." Lazy boy chair. And I said, "Hey, I've already walked." I consulted my Fitbit, and I said, "I've already walked 6 miles today." And I think they thought I was a little cuckoo.
Lying.
And so I joke. The 2 times they kicked me out of the hospital because I set the bar too high for the other patients.
But so they let you go. They said, "No, she can go home."
Well, the real reason they let me go home was I lived in such close proximity to the hospital, and I just didn't need their services yet.
Wow. Yeah. So, yeah. So you told me that you went 5 years before you finally had that moment of surrender to getting the medical care. So you believed that you could take care of it, or you could build your heart back up, and then there was a moment of truth where you realized that you needed help.
Yeah, no amount of hawthorn tea was going to repair my heart. I really wanted to avoid a heart transplant. It's not something I would choose willingly. And in fact, I never was ready. I remember I have 2 sons, and my sons each individually asked, "Mom, are you ready?" I'm like, "No, I never will be ready. I don't know how I could be ready to accept such a procedure, such a thing in my life." But I do know that some people in the same situation do feel ready. My sister shared a story with me that just days or a week or so before she got the call, she had just written in her journal, "I am ready." And I just think that's so beautiful. But that wasn't the case for me. I just had to trust, surrender, and know that I might not come through, but I might, and just be at peace with that. Just surrender, just go.
Wow.
Yeah.
My concern was wondering about your age, being as you were in your 60s. It seemed like, the clock was ticking, and
It was. There is what they call a sand in the line, they refer to it, and it's 65 years old. I was approaching that, but they do make exceptions.
Mhm.
Someone active. One thing that really motivated me to stay active and to be so determined was I went to many, many appointments because of the severity of my heart failure. They probably thought I needed transplant many years before I actually realized. In the waiting rooms, there were so many people in wheelchairs, so many people on oxygen, so many people with below the knee amputations, so many people morbidly obese. They had, not having oxygen. It's so hard. I do understand it's so hard to even get out of bed, to do anything, to keep things maintained, to keep going. It's really hard, but I didn't want to end up like that. I wanted to be a good example. And I just fought the battle of my life not to be like that.
I was always struck by how positive you were, as in the video showed us. Cool. Does anyone have any questions for Jeannie or comments? Because I
Hi,
can.
this is Bonnie.
Yes,
So
okay.
many questions, so many questions for you. And thank you for so much for sharing your amazing experience and your journey and your insights. Very, very moving. And I congratulate you on all your finding your way through that. I mean, it's a journey. It was a journey, it sounds like. I guess some of my questions would be to you about your near-death experiences. And I liked what you shared in the video about that. And maybe you want to go into that a little bit more. But I also, my sort of second question line would be the role that Shanti took as a death doula and your neighbor, fortunately, because I think that might help us to understand the ways that you asked for support and she provided, the best that she could offer. So that's my sort of two questions, I guess.
Shanti Vani's loving kindness, reaching out, her support of me, my situation was priceless. It makes a huge difference. Precious. Yeah. Other near-death experiences. I had a flashback when I was in the swimming pool, which is exceptional, that normally after solid organ transplant, you're not allowed to ever go tubing down the Ichitagni again for the rest of your life. You can't I can't kayak because I can't risk tipping over in a lake or a river. But they've made an exception for the swimming pool because it's in Gainesville co-housing and it's just 24 families. It's maintained daily. So exceptionally, my cardiology team gave me permission. So I was in the pool under the full moon the other night. The cold water really helps with the side effect of the shaking. And I had a flashback of one of my first near-death experiences was when I was on a lake dock as a child with friends and someone pushed me in and I couldn't swim. And I was able to forgive them. I worked through it. I did my shadow work the other night. I'm like, they didn't know I couldn't swim, but they were all jumping off, swimming, splashing around, and I could have died. And what happened was I went way under. It was at the deep end of the dock. And I remember my feet touched the ground and it was mushy. And I kicked up and got another breath of air when I came to the surface. And so I bobbed my way all the way to shallow enough water where I could stand up. And I was only like 6 years old when we lived in Citra when that occurred. And I don't know where that idea, how that occurred to me. It's just some instinctual survival, something. And then one really big near-death experience was after the birth of my son. I had a retained placenta and I nearly bled to death, and they barely got me to the hospital in time. And poor frantic doctor yelled at the two women, I need blood now. And I heard one of them yell back, we're thawing it as fast as we can. We can't get a cross match. Everybody was crying. They asked me if I needed a priest. And it was really scary, but I mean, not terrifying. Scary it's serious. It's that you realize you're not going to make it. Slim chance you're going to make it. But I was calming everyone else around me, just like, this is it. I asked to see my husband, he appeared in the doorway and turned and fainted. Not very helpful. So, and then I thought, well, if I can't say goodbye, I can't die. So, just took every ounce of energy I had. I knew not to close my eyes. I had just labored for over 21 hours and then had the delivery, and I was so exhausted, and I knew, and I wanted so badly just to close my eyes for a few seconds, but I knew if I closed my eyes, I would never open them again. I knew I had a choice. I really knew I had a choice, and it all depended on if I closed my eyes, even for 1 second. That was the choice. And I had a newborn baby I wanted to take care of. So I fought with every ounce, every minute quantity of energy I could find anywhere in the universe to keep my eyes open. And I just had this mantra on repeat: stay with the light in the room, stay with the light in the room, stay with the light in the room. And I managed to keep myself in my body, but it was the hardest work I have ever engaged in my entire life, just to stay with the light in the room. And then I've had, no fault of my own, 2 dreadful head-on collisions. One, a drunk truck driver took me out. And again, when I saw him coming towards me, and this was on a little mountain pass, the tunnel was closed. This was in Switzerland, and my brain told my arms turn towards him. And I'm like, that's not going to happen. And all this within a fraction of a second. But I trust my brain. I do trust my brain. So I turned towards it, and it just ripped off the whole front of my car. If I had kept going straight, it would have only been my car door between me and the truck, and I would have been ground meat. And the next morning, I was helicoptered. I actually lost consciousness, and I made my peace with God, like I do when I'm on the ski slopes. I'm like, hello, God. Yeah, it's me again. I'm really scared. Yeah, I know. Very funny. I always get in touch with you when I'm in this situation. So I was joking with God, and when my eyes closed, and there was nothing I could do. Nothing I could do to stay. I was gone. And then I remember coming to, and I remember something was dark and right over, and I couldn't move, and I needed to vomit so badly. I couldn't move, and I didn't want to drown in my vomit. So then I had to get every ounce of energy I could to suppress that. And then I saw this face with the helmet appear and do thumbs up. And I'm like, oh crap, this is serious. I'm on a life flight. I'm like, I might die. I mean, the dying was easy, but then knowing that you might die, not so fun.
Thinking about it.
Oh, weird.
So,
Yeah.
wow, your intuitive responses in those situations.
Does that answer some of your questions about previous death experiences?
Well, and tell us about the time that your defibrillator, that your heart stopped for 18 seconds.
18 seconds.
Tell us what that felt like. I think, was that the blackout kind of?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
That was September of 23, where I had gone back to the Appalachian Trail, and I hiked 35 miles, just doing a section, making progress.
That's a lot.
And I was headed back to my base camp to because the trail does this kind of this And I have friends that live right here. And so I was using them as base camp. So I was on my way back to my base camp. And this is another miracle. Lotta and Ken Murray at Murray Mountain, where I was staying, were very dear friends in Tennessee. Lotta was Dr. Blywise's charge nurse for many, many years, and I have heard some stories about my surgeon. And that's Lotta baked me this beautiful cake a couple weeks ago when I was up there we celebrated the 1-year anniversary together. And but so I was headed back to base camp. My partner Robert was driving, and I'm sitting there, and I feel my heart has stopped. And I realized, okay, game over. I was very calm. I didn't panic. I'm just feeling all these sensations in every cell of my body, every cell in my body, in the skin envelope, from the tips of my toes to behind my ears, like my entire body. I feel that oxygen deprivation, everything's dying. And I'm just experiencing that. And I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be really weird for him when he realizes that I just slump over and I'm gone. I'm like, oh, I can't do that to him. And so I thought, I need to tell him that I'm dying. And I just said, thinking of what am I going to say? He understood instinctually. He's like, because he never jumps. He's the calmest person in the world. And he's like, what's wrong? Is something wrong? Do I need to pull over? And boom, he pulled over and ran around the car, opened the door, and he's already Googling where the closest hospital is. I'm calm. He's total chaos.
You didn't say a word? Did you say his name?
No, I just said, and I was going to say, Robert, I need to tell you something. Let's pull over and say goodbye, or something. But that I could feel it.
So he knew.
Yeah, he knew. And so yeah, I was just feeling what I was feeling. I was calm, and the closest hospital was he said it's 40 miles away. I said, we won't make it. That's all I said, and I was calm. And he's like, well, what do I do? What do I do? And I said, just hold my hand. We're okay, And then just like quite a few times before, it's like this fade to black in an old black and white movie when they're changing scenes, then all of a sudden it's like someone plugged me back in. The heart started beating again and light returned. And then so he's like, okay, so I called my cardiologist, explained what happened. We just left base camp behind. We didn't even stop off there. We just stayed on I-75, came all the way straight back to Gainesville. And so I checked in with the electrocardiologist, and I said, and they're like, well, like, why are you here? And I'm like, didn't you get the transmission? And I'm like, yeah, I think my heart stopped for a few seconds. And she said, a few seconds? And she slid this piece of paper printout across the table to me and said, 18 seconds. I'm like, wow, okay, time to turn myself in. It's like, and that's when I had to admit.
Right. And then you had to sort of stay close to home for a certain amount of space. I want you to share the story that you told me about your relationship with your doctor. I mean, it sounds like quite a love affair. And sometimes we don't think of doctors as anything other than that half hour in the office, but they're human beings who are in this because they care about us and even love us, and we love them. And but I remember, and I think that what really solidifies relationships is when we're really honest about how we communicate. And there was a word that he was using that you wanted me to share that.
Yeah. So when I had to admit to Dr. Villaro, who is the best cardiologist in the world, if you ask me. He is so wonderful. He had been so supportive and understanding and listening, and he has taken excellent care of me for many years prior to the transplant. But then during the wait time, he shows up 100% for me. We were knee to knee. He's always so present when he's in the room with you, and he listens so well. And he was saying, I know this is really scary. And he used the word scary a couple times. And I just said, no, not scary. I said, it's very, very serious. I said, but I refuse to live in fear. And he's like, well, and he goes, well, I'm going to do that with my other patients. I'm going to say serious instead of scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
So that was cool.
Yeah.
So we had a question in the chat. I don't want to ignore that
Okay.
because I did tell people to,
Yes.
So Jennifer says, my daughter-in-law is a cardiac perfusionist. Her job during a heart transplant is to literally hold the heart and keep it pumping through the process. She would so value your stories. I'm sure you would. Hers such a sacred experience. And then she says, you need to write a book.
I would love to meet her because
Yeah.
it's something I haven't addressed yet, what I call the ick factor, because it's been so much to I can't quite get my mind around it. And the ick factor is like, for example, the fact that probably that room was full of 35 people that saw me lying there butt naked for hours, but I finally got the courage just 2 months ago, I finally got the courage as I was approaching the 1-year anniversary to actually watch some videos of heart transplants. And I had intended to watch them prior to educate myself, be prepared. I can honestly say I am so glad I did not watch them prior to transplant. No.
You might be dead today. Oh. And then another thing I want you to share about is what was it like the moment? I know the moment I remember when you messaged me when the heart had arrived, and I know Kathy, your sister here, is very close to that. But what was it like realizing that someone had died and the heart was going to be available to you that was a match? And then also share with us that moment that you actually, just those times, but also when you were about to wheel into surgery at that minute.
Right. One thing that had prepared me considerably to cope with this survivor's guilt. It's real, people. It's a reality. Was a friend, Larry Gill in Ohio, who is a transplant recipient that went to school with some friends that live in Ohio, and they put us in touch, and we messaged and had some phone conversations prior to my transplant. And Larry had suffered very severe survivor's guilt. And at one of his doctor's appointments, he needed psychiatric care for it. It was really profound. And at one of his appointments, he was crying, and he said to his doctor, someone died so that I could live. And the doctor said, no, sir, you are alive because someone died. They don't die so we can live. But as a result of their death, we can live if they want to be organ donors.
The gift of life.
The gift of life, exactly.
That's a really cool little difference.
There's a distinction.
They happened to die because that was their moment.
Accident.
It had nothing to do with you.
Right.
And you happened to be there to receive this precious gift.
One of the times I felt safe enough, but still going masked when I'm around a lot of people, someone who's known me for many years walked right up to me and poked me right in the chest and said, so you got someone's heart in there. And I was just taken aback for a few seconds. I was kind of speechless because that was really forward, and it just took me by surprise. And I said, well, I'm very glad it's not rotting in a grave somewhere. And that took him aback. But otherwise, I would never say such a thing.
Oh, yeah. That's a whole chapter, as things people say without realizing it.
But it's awkward for them, and it's true. It's so surreal and unimaginable that someone else's heart is in the place where my birth heart was. And my understanding is pieces or parts of my birth heart are still there to attach the donor heart or to support it. Maybe part of the apex of my heart is like a pedestal for it to rest on, to sit, to. So parts of our heart, I believe, are together. And something that happened when I was trying to walk and get back in shape is short of breath. It's hard. It's really hard. And there's lots of side effects, these medications you have to take for the rest of your life to prevent rejection. And I just stopped and I said, okay, here's the deal. Neither of us can survive without the other at this point. Let's be a team, And that's a little gallows humor, but there's really a love affair between the heart and I, and we have really beautiful conversations from like that second day in the ICU when I wasn't so heavily drugged, and I realized what had happened to me, and I thought, I need to talk to this heart. So I said, hello. I introduced myself and I just listened and listened. I mostly just listen. It's very rare that the heart ever says anything to me, but I introduced myself and I listened, and I felt that the heart was so lost and so traumatized. And I'm like, wow, but of course you are. Oh my gosh, this heart has died more than once. It died in an accident. It died when they took it off of life support. It had to be transported. And then of course it would be all disoriented. It's not in its birth body where it developed with the body it was born with. And I just felt this overwhelming protection instinct. And I'm like, I'll be your new home. I welcome you. I will protect you. I love you. I cherish you. You are a treasure to me. And that was the very beginning, our first conversation of our relationship.
Not being strangers to each other, but breaking that ice.
Yeah.
Oh my. We're a little short on time. We can go over a couple minutes, but I just wanted to. Your sister Kathy is just beaming here, and for those who came late, they don't know maybe that Kathy is Jeannie's sister, and that Kathy went through her transplant. Was it about
9 years?
9 years before, or years before, and so the two sisters have had the opportunity to support each other through this journey. So I didn't know, Kathy, if there's anything you wanted to share.
Oh, this is Jeannie's story, but I did want Jeannie to share. I put it in the chat, but about the little ceremony that you had the arts and medicine people create. That was so special.
And how that came about.
Okay, I'll try to do a quick version of that. I was so lucky. I wanted to know where I was going to go when I got the call. And I had 3 appointments within a 2-week period. And the first 2, when you're fasting labs and you're hungry and you just want to get out of there. And so I promised, okay, the next time we're here, we're going to go see where this is so we know where we're going if we get the call in the middle of the night. And we were going there to see where I would turn myself in. And I came around the corner and came face to face with a very dear friend who works in arts and medicine and said, I'm going, Sunita. And Sunita's going, Jeannie, what are you doing here? And I said, oh, I'm waiting for a heart transplant. And she's like, and make this quick, abbreviated. She said, I'm going to put your name on the wait list so that whenever you are admitted, we will know that you're here. So the arts and medicine showed up even when I was in the ICU. Tammy came. I think she's a director at Arts and Medicine. She came to see me and she only intended to stay 10, 15 minutes. She did a guided meditation. I don't think I needed any more morphine after that. Just the guided meditation. And as all Shan's professional care people do, when they're leaving the room, they stop and turn in the doorway and ask, can I get you anything? Do you have any other questions? Is there anything you need? And I said, oh, I do have a question. Is there like a ceremony for welcoming a transplanted organ? Like, is there, and she goes, what do you mean? She said, no one's ever asked me that question before. And I said, like the liminal bell that when people finish their cancer treatment, they strike that bell and they have the certificate. And she goes, she just exclaimed, I want to be a part of that. And she rushed in the room and sat back in the chair and said, tell me more. And so I said, well, I don't know if this exists. I'm asking you. Like I said, I imagine it's like a blessing way or a baby shower, like when there's like a new arrival in a group of people, like the new, it's new to me heart. Is there a way that we can welcome it? And she said, how do you envision it? And they made it happen. And we had a heart welcoming ceremony, and musicians came like every day, sometimes twice a day, to my room and serenaded me. They just stayed briefly, played a couple songs and disappeared and returned the next day. And they were so supportive, and it really helped with the pain. Just that extra layer of loving kindness. Arts and medicine is fabulous. And now they're going to have this established to offer to solid organ recipients.
Right. What a groundbreaking thing, because we have showers for babies and we have showers for brides. Now we have showers for hearts and other organs. And it just seems like such a natural flow. Yeah. So this is a gift that, as you can see, Jeannie, in her joy and zest and strength and creativity, has so much to offer. I do think there were a couple of other chats that I wanted to address. Jennifer's really cute. She said her significant other is a kidney transplant survivor, that he has a living donor. And, she said, we have discussed the difference in how, if he would feel anything different. And he says no, because gratitude is all he feels for having, again, that gift of life. And she also said, thank you. I keep my camera off as I ugly cry sometimes. I'm like, oh, we welcome crying in this house. We love laughing and crying.
Body knows.
Yeah. We can hand out tissues. So you have tissue. And then I also wanted to tell everyone to please feel free to leave your email in the chat. And Ellie says thank you. She just jumped on because she saw the link. I apologize for not sending the link this morning, as I said I would, but Jonathan also says thank you. What a meaningful and heartfelt session it truly has been. Now, I don't know if we missed anything, but I think the one question that I wanted to ask you was, and I think you've shown it all along, but it seems like you have a spiritual awakening that happens. Maybe it's your nature to love everyone and want the best for the world and for everyone. Do you have any just words of wisdom for any of us who are or are not facing health challenges, as far as what makes you happy?
Yeah. Something I discovered those days, and especially those few weeks I had to stay in the hospital following transplant, was leaning into the uncomfortable things, where my natural tendency would be avoid that crap. I want to deal with it. But it just happened. I don't know how it happened, but time and time again, when I would lean into the things that were very uncomfortable, I kept discovering and rediscovering like this magical consistency. Every time I leaned into it, it offered me gifts. I gained some new confidence by some insights or understanding, and it just amazed me. And now it's just my go-to. It reprogrammed my brain that the instant that I want to avoid, or I feel disgust, or want, don't want something, I lean into it and just realize, okay, what's triggering me? Oh, okay, it's from some other experience, but here I'm safe. Here I have everything. You just do that check-in and then sweep that away. And it just keeps building more confidence and more joy.
Wow. Yeah. I think that that's useful to any of us, all of us, all the time. Well, okay, we're going to bring it to a close. I do want to say that my hope is that next month on the second Wednesday at 3 p.m., we're going to follow this up with a woman here in Florida who has a business. She calls herself the transplant doula. And so I'm talking to her about having her come next time. So when we confirm that, I will make a flyer and send out an announcement. And that will segue into our December meeting we're already planning. So I love that thread of consistency and just how we're all connected. And when we tell our story, light bulbs go on and smiles happen and people feel connected. Even people we don't know, we can look at them on the street and say, wow, I have no idea what this person's going through. Let me be patient. Let me be kind. Maybe it's someone like what Jeannie's been going through for these years, and any of us. So to activate that compassion and kindness is why we're here. Thank you, everyone, for your participation and your listening, and I'm so grateful we could be here together today. Any last word?
Yeah, it's been very humbling to understand that people don't always match their numbers. You can look perfectly fine on the outside and nearly be at death's door.
Right.
And it's taught me just to have so much more compassion and patience with other people you never could possibly guess by their appearance what could actually be going on in their life.
And as a friend and as a doula, to be that person, for any of us, that person that someone can really share what's deep and important and meaningful, that to be that safe space for one another is world changing. It really is. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.